Hello, everybody, and welcome back for episode 12 here on the SMP. Behind me is a little fishing dock that I didn't work on last episode. This was made by somebody else towards the beginning of the SMP, actually. It's been here pretty much forever. And this whole area in front of me was made by somebody else as well, though a lot of it's a lot newer. And this mule isn't mine. This one is though, so let's ride him over to what I want to talk about today. This little patch of grass marked out with scaffolding and path and whatnot is a sort of blueprint, though a very rough one, for what I want to get started on today. Now, I don't have the plans perfectly laid out for all of it yet, so this whole spot right here, that's not done in creative mode or anything like that, but this one is planned out, so we can get started on this at least. There's two buildings that are going to go here, a post office and yet another stable, because I don't know. I already have two stables and they're not full. I can put more horses in there. Why do I want another stable? I don't know, but either way it's gonna cost some resources I don't have. So let's get started gathering some stuff. We got the goods, the stuff, all the stuff that we need, probably. I probably forgot, like, everything, but we won't know until we start building, probably. Here's most of the stuff, I should say, including some frog lights. Remember I said I might need some frog lights for a build in the future? This is the build. We're gonna use the frog light farm. Yay. But everything else is pretty normal. I had a lot of this stuff on hand already, but of course some of the stuff you saw I gathered in the time lapse, like the cobbled deep slate, and some of the other stuff like the different woods. But now that I have everything, I think it's just time to go ahead and start building. Well, here is the post office. Now, you might look at this and say, well, that doesn't look like a post office, and I want to explain why it looks like a post office to me. And that's the whole reason for this clip. I haven't done the other building or the interiors yet. I'll get to that, but I need to explain why this looks like a post office, but doesn't look like a post office. In the United States, there's quite a few post offices. Actually, a lot of post offices. So many post offices, and they're all a little different. And they're actually kind of a little bit regional sometimes. Sometimes not. Like, this design is kind of all across the US a little bit, but typically regions kind of have a certain style of post office, and other regions, usually a few counties over, will have a different style, a little bit. So if you grew up in a specific region, you have an idea of a post office in your head, and it might be completely different than this style of post office, or it might be really similar, depending on where you live. To me, this is the post office kind of style. So now, with that out of the way, what are the design features of this style? Well, for starters, it's obviously very boxy, which is intentional. It's not like I'm just that bad at building in Minecraft. The boxiness is a feature of this style. There's also these horizontal lines of a kind of lighter color. Depends on the material in real life, but usually it's a lighter color that's horizontal, kind of towards the top of the building, which is what that represents. And there's also a little bit of a hint of kind of Art Deco styling, usually on the front, though even throughout the rest of the build. And so I kind of represented that with this kind of stuff right here, just a little bit. And it might not look too Art Deco to you, but to me it just is the right amount of like the hint that this kind of style usually has. It is also usually pretty pristine. There's not usually any signs of weathering on the bricks or cracks or really anything. These buildings usually look new, despite them sometimes being decades old. So I kind of wanted to represent that by not texturing the build pretty much at all. So it's just all either brick or this smooth sandstone, which kind of looks a little weird in context with the rest of the build, but I think it sells the idea that I was going for. There's also a few creative liberties, like this blue UPS logo here that is just not realistic at all. I just kind of think it helps the idea of post office come through. And there's a few details that are kind of more universal, like having a US flag and a sign that has the name and the zip code and everything. This zip code is a placeholder. It's not supposed to be representative of anything, but I'm pretty sure it's an actual zip code of a place in the United States. So if you want to Google that, it might be a little interesting. I don't know exactly where it is or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure it does exist. I wouldn't send the mail though, because that would probably just be annoying for them to sort out and everything. So anyway, random zip code, don't pay attention to that. There is this whole side that's missing though. We need to build this building. I actually made some last minute changes to the design, which is why there's copper over there now, and there wasn't in the kind of montage or time lapse or whatever of this building being built. So since I have this kind of updated design and well, that's gonna eventually age, let's go ahead and get started.
Alright, the stable's done. I don't know why we're looking at my face. The stable's back there. I don't know what this clip is. The stable, it's finished. The exterior, anyway. The interior still got just grass in there, and I don't know. But the outside's done, and there's a few things I wanted to kind of talk about because this design is a little different than the other stables that I've made so far. The other stables kind of all had certain unifying features that this one doesn't have, though there are some features that this one does have too. For instance, the pitched roof, this one doesn't have that. The other two do, this one doesn't. But this one does have little gaps for air to flow through, like the other two do. Which in this one is fence post, and the other two I don't think it's fence post exactly, but in this one it's fence post, so that's nice. It's a little different. I think it works. We're finally adding mangrove wood into the palette. There's nothing else in the town that uses mangrove wood, and I think there's like one thing, small thing in the rural area that has mangrove wood in it, but this is the first time like actually using it for a building, and I think it works pretty well. There's quite a few old buildings that kind of have this red wood going on, so I think it just kind of works. Overall though, this building was meant to kind of look a little bit more industrial and a little bit shorter than the rest of the buildings. That's because in this section of the town we're kind of tapering off height wise so that we kind of blend back into the terrain towards the edge of the town. And we're also going to be pretty industrial with the smiths. I think the plan is to kind of have a pretty industrial looking building over here in this area. I don't have that planned out in creative or anything just yet, but I think that's going to kind of be the style of this section, so having that kind of fade a little bit more into that area with kind of like the copper and the less decorative building and everything, I think it will kind of all work together pretty well. But there's nothing left really to do on this building except for the interior. And I think we'll do the post office first and then the stables, maybe both at the same time because it's kind of hard to film interiors being built. Either way, we're doing interiors now. We have an interior. It's yeah, there's a finished interior. Um on both buildings, actually. We have two interiors. It's crazy. Here's the first one. I forgot to add stuff on these signs. There's stuff for the signs, but I think this works pretty well, like a little lobby for the post office or whatever, kind of like a little reception desk thing, I guess. And before we go in this other room, I gotta tell you a little disclaimer. I don't know what goes on in the back of a post office. I've never been back there. So like if this is all just like unbelievably incorrect, I gave you warning, okay? I know it's I know. I don't know what goes on back here. Just I just did shelves pretty much. There's just shelves back here. And this little like cart thing for them to like push around, I guess, and put stuff in. Also, remember the frog lights from a couple episodes ago? I don't remember exactly how long ago that was, but this was the frog lights that I needed. This is the whole reason why I got frog lights. It's just this build right here. That's it. That's the whole point of the frog lights. I think that all looks nice. We do have another interior for this building. I'm gonna need you to kind of brace yourselves for this one. It's something that you're never gonna expect. Something I have done twice before. Actually, it's a stable. We built another stable. There's a third stable in this build because I needed something to go here. I don't know. There's no reason that I need another stable. It kind of fits in with the rest of the build, right? Like having another stable on this end of town kind of makes sense. But I really just needed something to go here. I don't know. There's a third stable now. I think I have a problem. But anyways, the outside still needs a little bit of detail work. There's paths to go around here that need done. I think a few trees and bushes and a bit more texturing for this cliff over here. We have a lot still left to do. So let's go ahead and finish this building. Alright, here is the extra stuff, the details, I don't know what do you call it, trees mostly, some grass. I did texture the cliff a little bit. I kind of like it. There's a little bit of extra stuff back here that I tried to do, and I don't really know how successful I was at it, but I kind of tried to like do those lines that you see on cliffs, you know, the kind of like layers of rock and stuff. Try to kind of do that. I don't know if it really worked, but either way, the cliff is textured. There's a couple of trees here and a little bush. I can't really go too far over here because this building is kind of gonna interact with all that stuff once it's in place. And it's not done yet. It's just grass right here for now. So we'll hold off on all that, but we did do a little bit of like grass placement around this building and stuff. Just a little bit of stuff. The road, of course, is finished. It's all looking good, I think. But unfortunately, that is all I have time for today. Just these two buildings. We'll probably be working back over in the rural area next episode, doing trees, farms, and stuff. Maybe we'll see. But I'm out of time for this week, so thank you guys all for watching, and God bless.